F5 becomes SEM 1. Today we are going to start with sale of partnership firm to the company. Or in other words, we can say it's a conversion of partnership firm into limited company. Now before starting, let us see some theory part. Okay. So what are the objectives of conversion? Now basically, uh, conversion means we are converting our existing partnership business into limited company. जो हमारा existing partnership business है उसको हम limited company में convert कर रहे हैं. तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा, partnership firm का dissolution होगा. So partnership firm will come to an end और क्या होगा, a limited company will come into existence. So last year in 12th, you must remember that what we learned in dissolution, same thing is applicable here. Dissolution में हम क्या करते थे? We were opening your realization account, partners capital account, cash and bank account. यहाँ पे 2-3 format कुछ additional है because we are converting partnership firm into limited. So first let us see what are the objectives. Now why do we need to convert partnership firm into limited company? इसकी जरूरत क्या है? So see objectives of conversion. First, a larger capital requirement. See, when we are running partnership business, the capital is limited. Now, जब हमारा business expand हो रहा है, बड़े level पे जा रहा है, तो naturally हमारी capital requirement बढ़ती है. Now, which is not possible under partnership firm, because number of partners may be limited. 3 or 4 partners or 5 partners ज़्यादा भी हो सकते हैं, but ये उसका disadvantage है कि limited capital is available with the partnership firm. So when we are converting firm into a company, we can raise huge capital by issuing equity shares, by issuing preference shares, by issuing debentures, or by issuing public deposits. So we can raise more capital. So our first objective is larger capital requirement. So when we need huge capital, we need to have our business into company form of organization. So that's why we convert partnership firm into a company. ये हमारा था first objective. Second objective, limited liability. Now as you know, 11th और 12th में आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा कि सबसे बड़ा disadvantage क्या है partnership का? Unlimited liability. Means liability of partners is unlimited. So in case partnership firm is unable to pay the business liability, in that case partners personal assets can be attached. Partner का personal asset use करके भी हमें liability pay करनी है. So this was one of the disadvantage. So जब हम convert करते हैं partnership firm को into limited company, what we get? We get benefit of limited liability, because as you know, in company form of organization, liability of every member is limited up to the unpaid amount of shares held by them. हमारे पास जितने shares है, उसकी जो unpaid amount है, उतनी ही हमारी liability है, उससे अलावा हमारी कोई liability नहीं है. So members है या shareholders है, they are knotted or related to the liability of the company. Right? तो वो हमारा second point था. Third point is better facilities. See, when your partnership firm is converted into limited company, you get more credit facilities. You can get more loan facilities. You can get overdraft facilities from the bankers. Right? So you get better facilities. Then managerial expertise. When you have huge funds, we can employ or we can recruit professional managers. जो MBA pass managers होते हैं, MBAs with lots of experience, we can hire them, and they can take business to a greater heights. बड़े level पे business को लेके जा सकते हैं. So that is another advantage, that is managerial expertise. We can acquire managerial expertise. Global competitiveness. Company will have stand. See, when company have huge capital, company can spend lakhs of and crores of rupees in advertisement, sales promotion, and number of things. So company have a standing in the global market. so we can maintain global competitiveness. And then we have increase in the value. Definitely, when partnership firm is converted into company, it increases the value, it increases the reputation, it increases the goodwill, it enhances the goodwill of the firm. So these are the things for which we need to convert or sell partnership firm into a company, right? I hope these things are clear. Now let us start with what are the journal entries which we are going to pass. Or first of all, let us see what are the process of converting a partnership firm into limited company. So let's start. First is calculation of purchase consideration. See, when a company is acquiring a partnership firm, company जब partnership firm को acquire करेगी, so company will have to pay some remuneration ना. उसकी जो business को हम acquire करें तो वो business की जो value होगी that we will have to pay. So that value is known as purchase consideration. Now, how this purchase consideration is calculated? So there are two methods. One is net asset method and one is net payment method. Net payment method. Now, under net asset method, how purchase consideration is calculated? Net asset method, purchase consideration is calculated. Value of assets net value of assets minus net value of liabilities. Net value of liabilities. Net assets minus net liabilities is equal to your purchase consideration. Under net payment method, how it is paid? Equity shares plus debentures plus cash. How it is paid? Equity shares of the limited company plus debentures of limited company plus cash. जो भी difference होगा between purchase consideration, it will be paid in cash. So there are two methods. Now another question कि what accounts are we going to prepare? जैसे कि हम dissolution में realization account prepare करते थे, यहाँ पर भी realization account prepare करना. We have to prepare partners capital account. We have to prepare cash in bank account. We have to prepare limited companies account. Then we have to prepare equity shares in limited company account or debentures in equity debentures in limited company account or cash or bank account. So these are the account plus we have to open new balance sheet. Okay? So these are the accounts that we have to prepare. Now let us see and let us go and see that what journal entries are we going to pass. Now there are journal entries in the books of partnership firm and then journal entries in the books of company. क्योंकि कंपनी के बुक में हमें ओपनिंग एंट्रीज पास करनी पड़ेगी और जो पार्टनरशिप फर्म है उसके बुक में हम क्लोजिंग एंट्री पास करेंगे. ठीक है. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद जर्नल एंट्रीज. नाउ जर्नल एंट्रीज आर वेरी सिंपल. हमें जो एंट्रीज करनी है वो स्टेप वाइज एंट्री करनी है, तो बहुत ही इजी. देखो फर्स्ट स्टेप हमेशा हमारा होगा ट्रांसफर ऑफ एसेट्स. ट्रांसफर ऑफ एसेट्स एट बुक वैल्यू. एट बुक वैल्यू. Transfer of assets and book value. So when assets are transferred, our entry will be, we will transfer all assets to realization account. So our entry will be realization account debit, realization account debit to assets account, to assets account. Your second entry will be transfer of liabilities. So when liabilities are transferred, our entry will be, so transfer of liabilities, our entry will be liabilities account debit, to realization. Correct? So first entry हमारी realization account debit to what is going out? Assets. Transfer of liabilities account debit to realization account. Then your third entry will be purchase consideration due from limited company. अभी जो purchase consideration calculate हुआ, it is due from limited company. So in that case our entry will be limited company account debit, to realization. Limited company account debit. So limited company here becomes debtor. ये हमारा debtor हो जाता है, because that amount is receivable by us. तो हमारे लिए limited company debtor है. So limited company account debit to realization. Our next entry will be undistributed profit or losses. See, हमारा जो undistributed profit है, ये कहाँ दिखेगा? Liability side में in the form of reserve, general reserve or reserve fund या reserve, and profit and loss account. Right? Now this amount will be distributed to partners in their profit sharing ratio. So our entry will be general reserve account debit, profit and loss account debit, to partners capital account. ये हो गई प्रॉफिट की एंट्री. इन केस ऑफ लॉसेस, अब अगर लॉस है, see now general reserve and profit and loss account will appear in the liability side of your balance sheet, so that is your profit. अगर लॉस होगा, then loss will be shown on the asset side, profit and loss debit balance. See liability side में वो profit and loss credit balance, asset side में जो profit and loss दिख रहा है, that is your debit balance, that is loss. So उसकी एंट्री क्या आएगी? इसकी रिवर्स एंट्री आएगी. So partners capital account debit, to profit and loss account. So ये आपका नेक्स्ट स्टेप हो गया. फर्स्ट स्टेप था हमारा ट्रांसफर ऑफ एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज, देन परचेज कंसिडरेशन ड्यू की एंट्री, उसके बाद में जो अनडिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड प्रॉफिट एंड लॉसेस है उसकी एंट्री. Now next is asset not taken over by company. Asset not taken over by the company. Now it may happen sometimes the company may not take over certain assets. There may be number of assets, land and building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixture. But if company feels that particular asset doesn't have a market value, then it may not take over. So in that case, what will happen? कंपनी के पास क्या ऑप्शन, पार्टनरशिप फर्म के पास क्या ऑप्शन है? When assets not taken over by the company, either it can sell or transfer to partners capital account, or not taken over by company, same time it has not been sold in cash, then it should be transferred to partners capital account. So first हमारी एंट्री आएगी if sold in cash. Sold in cash. So हमारी एंट्री क्या आएगी? Cash account debit. Cash account debit to realization account. Cash oblique bank account debit. Right? If it is taken over by partner, if taken over by partner, in that case our entry will be, who's the receiver of the asset? Partner. So partner's capital account debit to realization. So our entry will be partner's capital account debit to realization account. I hope journal entries are clear. Journal entry समझ में आ रही है? Okay. Then next entry, if not sold in cash, not sold in cash and not taken over by partner, over by partner, in that case what will happen? We will transfer asset to partners capital account either in their profit sharing ratio or in their capital ratio. Normally क्या करते हैं? Profit sharing ratio में उसको distribute करते हैं. So in that case same entry आएगी. Partners capital account debit, capital account debit to realization account in profit sharing or capital ratio. Normally it is distributed in profit sharing ratio. Clear? Next is treatment of liabilities. If liabilities are not taken, liabilities not taken over by company, now see, if paid in cash, एक particular liability है which is not taken over by the company. In that case, partners will have to pay this liability, or it can be taken over by the partner. In that case, if it is paid in cash, तो हमारी entry आएगी realization account debit, realization account debit to bank account, कैश और बैंक अकाउंट. अगर हमारे क्वेश्चन में कैश अकाउंट दिया है तो कैश अकाउंट की एंट्री करेंगे, अगर बैंक अकाउंट दिया है तो बैंक अकाउंट की एंट्री करेंगे. If taken over by partner, liability is not settled in cash, but it is taken over by the partner. In that case, our entry will be realization account debit, realization account debit to partners capital account, partners capital account. Third entry, not paid and nor taken over by partner, nor taken over by partner. जैसे हमने एसेट भी किया था सेम वे, तो यहाँ पे हमारी एंट्री आएगी रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट डेबिट, रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट डेबिट to partners capital account, partners capital account in profit sharing ratio. In profit sharing ratio, right? Now next, payment of realization expenses. Our next entry will be payment of realization expenses. Now, realization expenses or realization account is a nominal account. So, we will debit all expenses. So, payment of realization expenses, so realization account debit, realization account debit to bank account. Now purchase consideration, next entry. Received from company. अब हमें परचेस कंसिडरेशन कैसे रिसीव होने वाला है? Purchase consideration will be received either in equity shares or debenture of company or cash. So हमारी एंट्री आएगी पार्टनरशिप फर्म के लिए क्या आ रहा है? कैश आ रहा है. So कैश और बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट, कैश ऑब्लिक बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट, इक्विटी शेयर्स in limited company account debit, debentures in limited company account debit. Now see, company may issue equity shares, company may issue preference shares also. So bank account debit, equity shares in limited company account debit, or preference shares in limited company account debit, debentures in limited company account debit, to who's the giver? Limited company. To limited company account. Limited company account. Clear? Up to this point all entries are clear. Now next step है हमारा, we will close realization account. अब जब realization account close करेंगे तो we will get either profit or loss. So next step is realization profit or loss. Realization profit oblique loss. In case there is a profit, तो हमारी एंट्री क्या आएगी? रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट डेबिट टू पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट. अगर प्रॉफिट होगी तो हमारी एंट्री आएगी रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट डेबिट टू पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट. बट इफ देयर इज अ लॉस तो उसका रिवर्स एंट्री आएगा. So partners capital account debit, partners capital account debit to realization account. Clear? Okay. अब क्या होगा कि whatever equity shares, debentures और cash that we have received from the company, अब ये दोनों पार्टनर के बीच में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होगा, तो उसके लिए क्या एंट्री है? Now, shares and debentures distribution to partners in profit sharing or closing capital ratio. Closing capital ratio. Now closing capital ratio is equal to closing balance of credit side minus closing balance of debit side. Credit minus debit, जो भी अमाउंट आएगी accordingly we will calculate the ratio. ठीक है? तो हमारी एंट्री आएगी each partners capital account debit, because partners are the receiver, so each partners capital account debit to shares in limited company account, to shares debentures in limited company account. To cash or bank. To cash oblique bank account. Because जो परचेस कंसेशन हमें मिला है पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म को, इट इज रिसीव्ड इन शेयर्स, डिबेंचर्स और कैश. तो उसके बाद में हम क्या करेंगे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के टाइम पे, आइदर इन प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग रेशियो, वो क्वेश्चन में दिया होगा, क्वेश्चन में देते कि क्लोजिंग कैपिटल रेशियो में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है या प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग रेशियो में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है. तो अगर प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग रेशियो में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है तो प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग रेशियो में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर देंगे. अगर क्लोजिंग कैपिटल में करना है तो कैपिटल बैलेंस ऑफ क्रेडिट साइड माइनस कैपिटल बैलेंस ऑफ डेबिट साइड. एंड अकॉर्डिंगली हम उसको रेशियो कैलकुलेट करके वो रेशियो में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर देंगे, राइट? नाउ लास्ट एंट्री, फाइनल कैपिटल बैलेंसेस पेड इन कैश। अब इस पूरा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सब हो जाने के बाद जो भी उसका कैपिटल बैलेंस होगा, दिस कैपिटल बैलेंस नीड्स टू बी पेड इन कैश। सो हमारी एंट्री क्या आएगी? पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट डेबिट, बिकॉज पार्टनर्स आर द रिसीवर। सो पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट डेबिट टू पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट डेबिट to cash oblique bank account. Clear? So these are the entries in the books of partnership form. ये closing entries है. So if you do these entries stepwise, it is very easy. First step क्या है हमारा? Transfer to realization account. So if we are transferring assets, तो realization account debit to asset. Liabilities, liability account debit to realization account. देन थर्ड एंट्री आएगी आपकी परचेज कंसिडरेशन की। जो भी आपने परचेज कंसिडरेशन कैलकुलेट किया होगा तो उसकी एंट्री क्या आएगी? लिमिटेड कंपनी अकाउंट डेबिट टू रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट। उसके बाद में अनडिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड प्रॉफिट एंड लॉसेस। अगर प्रॉफिट होगी तो हमारी एंट्री आएगी जनरल रिजर्व अकाउंट डेबिट, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट डेबिट टू पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट। इन केस देयर इज अ लॉस, देन पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट डेबिट टू प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट। उसके बाद में इफ एसेट्स आर नॉट टेकन ओवर बाय द लिमिटेड कंपनी ने एसेट टेक ओवर नहीं की, सो यहाँ पे क्या ऑप्शन है? फर्स्ट, आइदर इट इज पेड इन कैश टेकन ओवर बाय द पार्टनर एंड नाइदर पेड इन नाइदर रिसीव्ड इन कैश, और आई मीन नाइदर सोल्ड द एसेट नॉट टेकन ओवर बाय द पार्टनर। तो इफ द एसेट इज सोल्ड इन कैश तो हमारी एंट्री क्या आएगी? बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट टू realization account. In case taken over by the partner, so partner's capital account debit to realization. And in case neither sold nor taken over by the partner, in that case हमें उसको पार्टनर को उनके प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग या कैपिटल रेशियो में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर देना। अगेन द एंट्री विल बी सेम, पार्टनर्स कैपिटल अकाउंट डेबिट टू रियलाइजेशन अकाउंट। सेम इज द केस विद लायबिलिटी। इफ लायबिलिटी इज पेड इन कैश तो हमारी एंट्री क्या आएगी? Realization account debit to bank account. If it is taken over by the partner, then realization account debit to partner's capital account. If it is not paid in cash, neither taken over by the partner, in that case, it will be transferred to partner's capital account in that profit sharing ratio or capital ratio. Okay. उसके बाद में next step we will close the realization account. Realization account में either profit होगा या loss. If there is profit, then our entry will be realization account debit to partners capital account. In case of loss, then partners capital account debit to realization account. Then there is one more entry, payment of realization expenses. So realization account debit to bank. Purchase consideration received from the company. So our entry will be cash or bank account debit, equity shares in limited company account debit, debentures in limited company account debit to limited company account. Then realization profit or loss की entry आ गई. Then shares and debentures distribution to partners in their profit sharing or capital ratio. In that case, who are the receiver? Partners. So each partner's capital account debit to shares in limited company account, to debentures in limited company account, to cash or bank account. And final capital balance is paid to partners capital account debit to cash or bank account. Now we have to pass entries. Now these are the closing entries. Now we have to pass opening entries in the books of limited company. Now in the books of limited company there are very limited entries, only 3 or 4 entries are there. Okay, so now we'll see journal entries in the books of limited company. First is purchase consideration payable. Purchase consideration payable. So यहाँ पे हमारी एंट्री आएगी. See now, limited company is purchasing the business. तो वहां पे एंट्री आएगी business purchase account debit. Business purchase account debit to vendor account. To vendor account. Now vendor कौन है? Partnership firm. Partnership firm. So first entry is business purchase account debit to vendor account. Second entry, incorporation of assets and liability. Assets and liabilities. Now limited company will record all assets and liabilities at the value they have purchased, जिसके लिए उन्होंने purchase consideration pay किया है. तो हमारी एंट्री आएगी assets account debit to liabilities account to business purchase account. Business purchase account. तो ये आपकी हो गई सेकेंड एंट्री. Asset account debit to liabilities account to business purchase account. Now next entry आएगी आपकी. Now जो purchase consideration pay किया limited company. So payment of purchase consideration. Payment of purchase consideration. अब ये परचेस कंसिडरेशन कैसे पे किया है? आइदर इन इक्विटी शेयर्स और डिबेंचर्स और कैश. तो हमारी एंट्री आएगी वेंडर कंपनी अकाउंट डेबिट टू इक्विटी शेयर्स इन लिमिटेड कंपनी अकाउंट to debentures to cash or bank. Next entry आएगी लास्ट एंट्री. जो प्रिलिमिनरी एक्सपेंसेस और फॉर्मेशन एक्सपेंसेस जो पे किए होंगे उसकी एंट्री. सो प्रिलिमिनरी एक्सपेंसेस पे तो हमारी एंट्री आएगी प्रिलिमिनरी एक्सपेंसेस अकाउंट डेबिट to cash oblique bank account. Clear? So limited company के बुक में 4 ओपनिंग एंट्री है. फर्स्ट इज purchase consideration payable, second is incorporation of asset and liability, then payment of purchase consideration and preliminary expenses paid. अब यहाँ पे ये जो एंट्री है, यहाँ पे वेंडर कंपनी अकाउंट डेबिट टू इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल टू डिबेंचर्स अकाउंट टू कैश आउट बैंक, ऐसे भी एंट्री कर सकते हैं. नाउ नेक्स्ट स्टेप क्या है? टू प्रिपेयर द बैलेंस शीट, न्यू बैलेंस शीट. अब जो एसेट और लायबिलिटी टेक ओवर किया है वो सारे क्या आएगा? न्यू बैलेंस शीट में आएंगे. नाउ समटाइम्स इट हैपेंस व्हेन वी आर टेलिंग द बैलेंस शीट, ये हो सकता है एसेट साइड विल बी मोर, लायबिलिटी साइड विल बी लेस. तो जो डिफरेंस अमाउंट आएगा ये क्या कंसीडर करेंगे कि जब परचेस कंसिडरेशन पे किया तो कंपनी के पास इनफ कैश नहीं था, तो कंपनी हैज टेकन द ओवरड्राफ्ट. तो अगर एसेट इज मोर, लायबिलिटी इज लेस, तो जो भी डिफरेंस अमाउंट आएगा ना लायबिलिटी साइड, दिस विल बी पुट इट इनटू बैंक ओवरड्राफ्ट. योर बैलेंस शीट विल गेट टैलीड. क्लियर? सो आई होप everyone is understood. In case you like the live lecture, then please subscribe our channel and please like the live video. Thank you very much. Tomorrow again at the same time we will start with the practical sums. Thank you very much.